3, 2, 1.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. I am NURADILA HANAN binti HAMADI and I will start the presentation with the introduction of professional judgment and professional skepticism, which represent the key to a successful audit engagement. Professional judgment is the application of accumulated relevant training, knowledge and experience gained within the context provided by auditing, accounting and ethical standards in making informed decisions about the courses of action that are appropriate in the circumstances of the audit engagement. Before commencing the audit, the auditor needs to apply it in deciding the materiality and risk in auditing. It lets the auditor decide whether the audit evidence obtained is sufficient and appropriate for the audit. If they found it otherwise, the auditor can further evaluate new audit procedures or course of action by applying professional judgment. It allows the auditor to assess whether such judgment is implying any fraud or error and whether they are in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Next, professional skepticism. It is an attitude that includes a questioning mind, being alert to conditions which may indicate possible misstatement due to error or fraud, and a critical assessment of evidence. It is fundamentally a mindset that leads the audit to be open to the possibility that something may go wrong. The audit must be planned and performed with an attitude of professional skepticism applied in each area of the audit process, including identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement, performing tests of control and substantive procedures to respond to the determined risk, and evaluating the result of the audit. With that, I pass to IZZUDDIN.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is IZZUDDIN bin MALIKI, and for this session, I will be sharing with you guys the element of professional judgment and professional skepticism, as well as the impact to audit and auditor. Now, let's take a look on the element of professional judgment. The first element is identifying and defining issues which the auditor need to recognize and know whether the issue is related to the transaction or not. Next, gathering the information and fact. By gathering the fact, it could help the auditor to reduce the error during the judgment tendency process. Furthermore, performing the analysis and identifying the alternative and making a decision is also one of the elements of professional judgment. Lastly, is to review and completing the documentation and rationale for the conclusion. Next, the element of professional skepticism, which is questioning mind. Questioning mind is an attitude relating to curiosity and interest. The other element also includes searching for knowledge, suspension of judgment, and interpersonal understanding. The last element of professional skepticism is self-confident and self-determining, which is the auditor's ability to decide on the adequacy of information as evidence to provide audit judgment. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is the impact to the audit and auditors in professional judgment. Firstly, the auditor will obtain relevant professional skills through studies and actual case, such as improving their decision-making skills. Next, it will help the auditor service. Other than that, the auditor will be able to use professional judgment as a key training item to improve the auditor's awareness and capability of professional judgment. Lastly, the auditor is able to fill them with expert and past professional judgment to enrich their knowledge and experience. Next, impact to the audit and auditor in professional skepticism. The auditor will be able to learn to identify anomalies as they progress through their careers. Besides that, the auditor skepticism can be fostered and help gain deeper understanding of the client business. Lastly, it will enable the auditors to provide insight and value-added service, and an auditor who does not apply the right degree of skepticism would never identify. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzudin. Hi and Assalamualaikum. I am Izzah Athirah and I will be the next presenter to present to you about possible reason for the issue arise and also argument on the factors that may influence professional judgment and professional skepticism. As we all know, auditors should be alert of any possible judgment tendencies that can lead to bias and weaken the skepticism. An auditor is a person, not a robot. They could still make an error on their audit that could affect their ability to make a wise and accurate judgment. The first reason is confirmation. auditors intentionally pay more attention to the information and evidence that supports their initial preference or expectation when collecting data. Therefore, the audit may refer to evidence that is biased against his or her expectation without realizing it. If the auditor only considers the confirmatory evidence as a shortcut for their judgment, it could result in biased judgment. This is because an auditor needs to consider how and why the information may be false or incorrect, caused by personal motivation or the self-interest of the auditors. Confidence is good, but however, confidence can offer an auditor a false sense of security about the quality of his or her judgment in some cases, especially when the decision-making process is complex. Third is anchoring. Anchoring might emerge when an auditor places too much reliance on one piece of information or a combination of circumstances. It increases the probability that an auditor would apply an evidence-gathering strategy from a previous engagement rather than objectively assessing a larger collection of techniques. The second last is availability. This tendency can serve the auditor well, but it can also introduce biases in the auditor's performance. Auditors may be tempted to easily consider the explanation provided by the management, and it may be more challenging for them to form additional possibilities. And the last reason is rush to solve. The auditors might underinvest in the important steps in the process, opting for the first viable alternative that comes to mind or is provided. Next, let's move on to argument on the factors that may influence professional judgment and professional skepticism. The first one is gender. As we all know, men and women are different, include different moral judgments. I'm sorry to say this, but female auditors are said to be more trustworthy, have higher ethical values, and are more accurate in performing complex assignments as compared to male auditors. Next is knowledge. A better knowledge might affect the approach to audit, judgment, and skepticism. Auditors with a lack of knowledge will probably make mistakes and affect the quality of the audit. Third factor is position level. Individuals of higher rank have a stronger sense of obligation to their profession than those in a lower rank. The second last is experience. It is said that auditors with more experience is easier to detect potential mistakes and frauds during audits, as they have a complete understanding of the errors in the statement and are able to explain them compared to auditors with less experience. The last one is size of audit firm. Audit firm size may also influence the auditor's behavior, including their independence. Financial analysis and bank loan have found that some small audit firms have a significantly higher risk of having independence threat. Alright, that's all from me. I will now pass this to the next presenter, FAIZ.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad FAIZ bin SOLAHUDIN, and for this session, I will be sharing with you guys about the analysis and evaluation. Now, let's take a look on professional judgment. Professional judgment requires professional auditors to use their applicable training, knowledge, and experience guided by professional norms, rules, and ethical principles to form opinions or make decisions on acceptable action in the current circumstance of an audit engagement. For professional skepticism is strongly bound to the ethical values of objectivity and auditor independence. The ability of the auditor to behave with integrity, be objective, and retain a professional skepticism is enhanced by his or her independence. In conclusion, an audit that lacks professional skepticism or judgment are worthless, which is why every auditor must utilize it. It is an important aspect of auditing and is used to create the audits based in particular company circumstance. For the recommendation, in order to avoid potential judgment tendencies which will bring bias and weaken skepticism such as confirmation, the auditor should make the opposing case and consider alternative explanation as well as seek potentially disconfirming or conflicting information. Next, overconfidence can be overcome by challenging opinions and experts and challenging underlying assumptions. For anchoring, the auditors should seek feedback from others, take into account management bias, including the possibility of fraud or serious misstatement, and seek evaluation from a different source over a longer period of time. And lastly, to overcome the availability, the auditor should define the problem and objective, consider all identifiable alternatives, and consider which would be the most relevant. That's all for me. Thank you.